The scanner blipped insistently on Terran Cade's console. Breaking the silence that had settled over the Windward's bridge, he leaned forward, brushing aside a tangle of auburn hair as he studied the readings. "Well, I'll be damned," he muttered, tapping the screen. "Nav, give me a visual on that signature." The view screen flickered, revealing a massive vessel drifting silently against the backdrop of the Cerulean Nebula. Its hull was scarred, blackened in places, but Terran recognized the design of Helix-class research ship. Top of the line 3 decades ago. Identity confirmed, announced the ship's AI. Research vessel Asteria. Reported lost during the temporal storm of 2187. Terran's breath caught. The Asteria was legendary among salvage as a ghost ship carrying experimental technology that vanished without a trace. Finding it could set him up for life, enough to finally pay off the debts that kept him running salvage missions through the dangerous fringes of settled space. "Prep the boarding shuttle," he ordered. Already pulling on his EVA suit, the Asteria was eerily intact as Terran drifted through its corridors, his helmet light cutting through the darkness. Emergency systems had maintained minimal life support, but frost coated the walls, and his breath fogged inside his helmet. Following the ship's power signatures led him to a sealed laboratory deep within the vessel. "Someone's maintaining power to this section," he said into his comm, "diverting resources from life support." The lab door hissed open after he overrode the security protocols. Inside, rows of stasis pods lined the walls. Their indicators dark all except one at the far end, its blue glow pulsing steadily. Terran approached cautiously, wiping frost from the transparent cover. Inside lay a woman, her features serene in suspended animation. Dark hair framed her face, and her lab coat bore the emblem of the Interstellar Scientific Coalition. "There's a survivor," he reported, scanning the pod's systems. "Vital signs stable. Pod's been running on emergency protocols for 30 years? As he worked to initiate the revival sequence, he found the nameplate, Dr. Mira Valen, Xenobotany. The pod systems hummed to life, and the cover slowly retracted. Mist spilled across the floor as Mira Valen took her first breath in 30 years. Her eyelids fluttering, Terran removed his helmet, kneeling beside the pod. "Dr. Valen, can you hear me?" Her eyes opened, striking amber irises, adjusting to the dim light. Confusion gave way to recognition, then to something deeper as she focused on his face. She whispered, voice hoarse from disuse. "No, I'm Captain Terran Cade of the salvage vessel Windward. You've been in stasis for a very long time." Tears welled in her eyes as reality settled over her. "He said he'd come back for me," she murmured, reaching out with trembling fingers. "Jace promised he'd find me. ... Terran took her hand gently. The Asteria disappeared in 2187. It's 2217 now. 30 years, she whispered, the weight of lost time washing over her features. "The others? The specimens. You're the only life sign I've detected," Terran said softly. Mira struggled to sit up, her muscles weak from decades of inactivity. "No, you don't understand. We weren't alone on this ship, and if I'm still here, then they might be too." A distant thud echoed through the ship, metal against metal. Terran's hand moved instinctively to his sidearm. "What was on this ship, Dr. Valen?" he asked, suddenly alert. Mira's eyes met his, filled with urgency. "The future," she said simply, "and those who would kill to control it." Myra's legs trembled as Terran helped her across the threshold of the Windward. The salvage vessel was cramped compared to the Asteria, but its warmth and gentle hum of functioning systems felt like an embrace after the frozen tomb she'd left behind. "Easy now," Terran said, guiding her to the medbay. "Your muscle atrophy isn't as severe as it should be. After 30 years, something about the stasis technology they were using on you was ... different." The medical scanner hummed over her body as she lay back, eyes fixed on the ceiling. "Temporal suspension," she murmured. The Asteria was testing new stasis methods that would slow molecular degradation to near zero. "I was the volunteer." Terran raised an eyebrow. "You volunteered to be a test subject?" A bitter smile crossed her face. When you believe the person you love will return for you in a few months? Yes. She turned to face him, her amber eyes piercing. Jace Lorani was commander of our security detail. When the first signs of the temporal storm appeared, he took a shuttle to warn the research outpost on Helios 4. He promised he'd come back with help. The scanner completed its cycle, and Terran studied the results. Your body's about 3 years older than when you entered stasis. Not 30. The pod worked. But the world didn't wait for me, Myra whispered. Over the next few days, Terran showed Myra how the universe had changed. The Nexus Wars had reshaped colonial borders. Earth had finally established peace with the outer colonies. Technology had advanced neural interfaces, and quantum communication were commonplace now. Each night, Myra would wake gasping from nightmares, fragments of memories from the day the Asteria was attacked. Terran would find her in the observation deck, staring at unfamiliar star patterns. I searched for him, Terran admitted one night, sitting beside her. Jace Lauren. After I found you, Myra's breath caught. And he made it to Helios 4, led 3 rescue missions to find the Asteria. But the temporal storm had shifted it outside normal space. Records say he never gave up. Terran paused. He died 15 years ago. A colony governor on Proxima 2. Tears slid silently down her cheeks, grief for a future that never happened, and a past too distant to reclaim. What about my research? She asked finally, wiping her eyes. The specimens we were transporting? Terran's expression darkened. That's where things get interesting. Your name is flagged in every corporate database. Someone's been hunting for you, or more specifically, for what you discovered. Mira's fingers curled around the edge of her seat. We found something on Kepler 186f, a plant species with remarkable adaptive properties, but it wasn't just a plant. Her voice dropped to a whisper. It was sentient, communicative. We called them the Lele. Sentient plants. Terran looked skeptical. Their biology defied classification. They developed neural-like networks that could interface with human consciousness, excitement litter features. They showed me things, Terran visions of worlds beyond our understanding. And they were just saplings. The mature specimens were being transported in special containment units. The Windward's proximity alarm suddenly blared to life. Terran rushed to the console, cursing under his breath. Corporate vessel, Helios Dynamics markings. They're scanning us. Ow. Mira froze. That's impossible. Helios Dynamics was a small research firm 30 years ago. Now they're the largest biotech conglomerate in 3 systems, Terran said grimly, initiating evasive protocols. And they've found us. He turned to her. Decision made. We need to go back to the Asteria. If those specimens are still there, we can't let Helios get them. As the Windward veered toward the derelict ship, Mira felt Terran's hand close around hers, warm and solid. For the first time since waking, the future didn't seem like an endless void. Whatever's on that ship, he said, we'll face it together. The Asteria loomed before them once more, its dark bulk seeming more ominous now that Mira was fully conscious. Terran docked the shuttle with practiced ease, his movements tense as they prepared to re-enter the derelict vessel. Helios will dock on the port side, he said, checking his weapon. We have maybe 20 minutes to reach the containment sector. Mira nodded, fastening the environmental suit Terran had provided. It was sleeker than the models she remembered, conforming to her body like a second skin. The specimens were kept in Sector 7, Sublevel 3. We'll need to restore power to the elevators. They moved through the darkened corridors, Myra leading with newfound purpose. Memories flooded back with each turn colleague's faces, shared meals in the mess hall. Late nights studying the extraordinary samples from Kepler 186f, here she said, stopping at an unmarked door. She pressed her palm against the security scanner, surprised when it still recognized her after all these years. Backup systems must have preserved the database. The door slid open, revealing a small laboratory separate from the main research areas. Inside, a single stasis chamber glowed with faint violet light. You kept one here, Terran realized, approaching the chamber cautiously. Mira nodded. her fingers already dancing across the control panel. My personal research specimen. The others never knew about this one. I discovered it had formed a connection with me. It was growing in response to my presence. The chamber opened with a soft hiss, releasing a cloud of iridescent particles. Within, a plant unlike anything Terran had ever seen unfurled delicate tendrils. Its structure resembled Earth's ferns, but it pulsed with bioluminescence, shifting from deep purple to soft lavender. "It's beautiful," Terran whispered. Mira's eyes filled with tears as she carefully lifted the containment vessel. It recognized me. All these years, and it still recognizes me. A flicker of movement caught Terran's attention. The plant's tendrils reached toward Mira, extending with purpose rather than the random growth patterns of normal vegetation. "What is it? Greeting you?" Before she could answer, the sound of a docking clamp echoed through the ship. Helios had arrived. "We need to move," Terran urged, but Mira was transfixed by the specimen, her expression one of wonder and sorrow. "Mira? It's showing me," she whispered, eyes unfocused. "The others, they're still alive, but they've changed." Footsteps echoed in the corridor outside. With gentle efficiency, Terran guided Mira toward the emergency access tubes, the precious specimen cradled between them. As they climbed, the ship trembled around them. "They're not just here for retrieval," Terran realized. "They're going to destroy the evidence." They emerged on the hydroponics level, a vast chamber once filled with sustenance crops for the crew. Now it was transformed, the ceiling and walls covered with a network of violet-hued vegetation, pulsing with the same gentle light as Mira's specimen. They survived, Mira breathed. They adapted and spread throughout the ship's life support systems. In the center of the chamber stood what appeared to be a woman, but as they drew closer, Terran saw her skin had a subtle purple hue, and what looked like delicate vines traced patterns along her bare arms. She turned, regarding them with eyes of deep violet. "You returned," she said, her voice melodic and strange. As the memory foretold, Mira stepped forward, trembling. "You single, we. The woman smiled. "I am what the seeds became, shaped by memory and longing. Your consciousness guided our evolution during the long silence." She extended her hand toward Mira. "We remember you, mother of changes." Behind them, the sound of weapons being primed broke the moment of wonder. A squad of Helios security forces blocked the exit, led by a woman whose cold eyes assessed the scene with calculating precision. "Dr. Vallon," she said smoothly, "how fortunate that you've survived to witness what your research has created." Her gaze shifted to the violet woman. "And you've saved us the trouble of hunting down the primary specimen." Director Vasha Kairos, the cold-eyed woman, introduced herself with a thin smile. "Head of Helios Dynamics Advanced Evolution Division. Your research laid the groundwork for our most profitable initiatives, Dr. Vallon." Terran stepped slightly in front of Mira, his hand hovering near his weapon. The security team's 6 heavily armored soldiers with pulse rifles formed a semicircle around them. "Your research was never lost," Kairos continued, studying the purple-hued woman with clinical interest. "Just repurposed. When the Asteria disappeared, we recovered enough data to continue. But the original specimens remained elusive." Her gaze hardened. "Until now." The Lele woman moved with liquid grace, placing herself between the Helios team and Mira. "We have waited in the silence," she said, her voice resonating strangely in the vast chamber. "Growing, learning, remembering. Fascinating," Kairos murmured. "Full sentient transformation, the board will be pleased." She gestured to her team. "Secure the primary specimen and Dr. Valen. Terminate the others." Terran drew his weapon in one. Fluid motion, but before he could fire, the deck beneath them trembled. Vines erupted from the walls, snaking around the security team's ankles. The entire ship seemed to awaken, pulsing with violet light. Terran shouted, grabbing Myra's hand. They fled through a corridor now lined with luminescent vegetation, the Lele woman gliding effortlessly beside them. Behind them, shouts and weapons fire echoed through the ship. "The Lele have integrated with the Asteria systems," Mira explained breathlessly as they ran. They've been sustaining the ship and themselves all these years. They reached a junction where the corridors split 3 ways. The Lyle woman stopped, turning to face Mira with an expression of serene determination. "You must reach the seed vault," she said, touching Mira's cheek with fingers that felt like silk-covered vines. "What grows here is but a fragment. The true future lies dormant, waiting for your return." "I don't understand," Mira whispered. "You will." The woman's eyes glowed brighter. "He has protected you across time, as was foretold. Now you must protect what comes next." With that cryptic statement, she turned and disappeared down one of the corridors, drawing the pursuit of half the security team with a flash of purple light. Terran pulled Mira down the opposite passage. "Where's this seed vault?" "Sublevel 5, Mira replied, her mind racing. "Die." "But Terran? What did she mean? Who protected me across time?" A blast door ahead of them began to close. Terran slid beneath it, pulling Mira through seconds before it sealed shut, cutting off their pursuers. They found themselves in a maintenance shaft, dimly lit by emergency lighting and the soft glow of scattered lilac growths. Terran leaned against the wall, catching his breath. "I never told you how I found the Asteria," he said quietly. Mira studied his face in the violet-tinged light. "You said it was a salvage opportunity. It was." He hesitated, "but I had coordinates. Specific coordinates transmitted to my ship through a quantum entanglement receiver technology that didn't exist when the Asteria vanished. Who sent them?" The message was signed J. L. Terran watched realization dawn on her face. Jace Lauren somehow sent coordinates 30 years into the future, directly to my ship. Tears welled in Mira's eyes.
"Oh."
He found a way to keep his promise. Their moment was interrupted by the ship's intercom crackling to life with Director Kairos' voice. "Attention, Doctor. Valen. We've located the primary Lyle seed vault. Surrender yourself and Captain Cade, or we'll destroy it, and everything you've spent your life trying to preserve." Mira's expression hardened with resolve. "We need to get to that vault." As they moved deeper into the ship, Terran noticed the Lyle growth becoming more organized, forming patterns that resembled circuit boards along the walls. "They're not just plants," he realized. "They're creating a networked intelligence throughout the ship." "Symbiosis," Mira nodded. "What we discovered on Kepler 186F wasn't just sentient plant life. It was a biological quantum computer capable of interfacing with organic consciousness." Her eyes shone with wonder and fear. "And I've been connected to it since the beginning." They reached a sealed door emblazoned with the Interstellar Scientific Coalition emblem. Mira placed her palm against it, and the door slid open, revealing a chamber bathed in pulsing violet light. Inside, Director Kairos waited, flanked by her remaining guards. Behind her stood a massive vault, its transparent walls revealing thousands of glowing seeds suspended in a crystalline matrix. "The future of humanity," Kairos said, gesturing grandly. "Imagine soldiers who can regenerate limbs in seconds. Colonists who can photosynthesize on hostile worlds. Workers who never tire." Her smile was reptilian. "All thanks to your research, Dr. Valen." "That's not what they're meant for," Mira said, her voice steady despite her fear. "The Lyle are partners, not tools." "How disappointingly idealistic," Kairos sighed, drawing a sleek pistol. "Perhaps your captain will be more reasonable. After all, Helios Dynamics rewards its collaborators handsomely." Terran's eyes never left the weapon pointed at Mira. "I've seen what corporate rewards look like," he said coldly. I fought in the Nexus Wars. Watched corporations like yours sacrifice millions for profit margins." Kairos shrugged. "Then you'll both die here, and we'll extract what we need from your corpses." The lights flickered suddenly, and a strange harmonic tone filled the air. The Lyle woman materialized from the shadows, her form now more ethereal, tendrils of energy extending from her fingertips. "You cannot possess what was never meant to be owned," she said, her voice resonating at a frequency that made the guards wince in pain. As chaos erupted in the vault chamber, Mira felt a strange sensation a pulling from within. She stumbled forward, drawn inexorably toward the seed matrix. Her hand rose of its own accord, pressing against the transparent barrier. The vault responded, the barrier dissolving beneath her touch. Seeds drifted toward her, surrounding her in a swirling cloud of violet light. Mira, Terran shouted, fighting his way through the disoriented guards. She turned to him, her eyes now glowing with the same violet light as the Lilay. I understand now, she whispered. I've always been the bridge. The seeds orbiting Myra began to pulse in unison, their light intensifying until it filled the chamber. Terran shielded his eyes, still struggling to reach her through the chaos. Director Kairos and her remaining guards fired blindly into the radiance, their shots absorbed by the swirling energy. Stop them! Kairos screamed, her composure shattered. Whatever's happening, stop it now. But it was too late. The Lilay woman had merged with the wall of the chamber, her form spreading like liquid across the surfaces until the entire room pulsed with her consciousness. The ship's systems came fully alive around them, not with mechanical power, but with organic intelligence. Through the blinding light, Terran finally reached Mira, grasping her hand. Her skin felt electric against his, vibrating with energy that should have been painful, but instead felt strangely familiar. Mira, he gasped. What's happening to you? Her eyes focused on him, recognition cutting through the violet glow. The Lilay aren't just communicating with me, they're showing me everything. Her voice sounded layered, as though many voices spoke through her. Jace found them first. Terran, before anyone else on the expedition. Images flashed through Terran's mind as their connected hands formed a circuit. Jace Lauren discovering a small violet growth on a routine patrol. His fascination, as it responded to his thoughts. The secret communications over weeks. Then the realization of what the Lilay truly were, travelers from beyond time itself. Seeking symbiosis with sentient species across the galaxy. The temporal storm wasn't an accident. Mira continued, tears streaming down her face. The Lilay created it to protect themselves from exploitation, but they couldn't leave without me, their chosen intermediary. So they kept the ship in a pocket of folded time, waiting. Around them, the Helios guards dropped their weapons, transfixed by the visions now projected throughout the chamber. Countless worlds where humans and Lilay had evolved together in harmony, creating civilizations beyond imagination. Only Director Kairos remained immune. Her face contorted with rage as she raised her weapon one final time, aiming directly at Mira's heart. I won't let you ruin everything, she snarled. Terran moved without thinking, placing himself in the path of the shot. The blast hit him squarely in the chest, sending him crashing backward into Mira's arms. No, Myra cried, cradling him as he slumped to the floor. Blood spread across his chest, his breathing shallow and ragged. The Lilay woman emerged from the wall, her form now almost completely ethereal. His sacrifice was foretold, she said gently. The circle must close. Mira looked up, desperation in her eyes. Save him, please. The choice must be yours, the Lilay replied. To complete the bond requires everything. Understanding dawned on Mira's face. The seeds surrounding her drifted downward, settling onto Terran's wound. She placed her hand over them, closing her eyes. I choose him, she whispered. I choose us. The seeds melted into a luminous liquid, seeping into Terran's chest. His body arched as the violet energy spread through him, healing the wound and transforming him from within. His eyes flew open, now bearing the same subtle violet sheen as Mira's. Director Kairos backed away in horror. What have you done to him? Given him a choice, Mira said, helping Terran to his feet. The same choice I'm giving you and your people to understand rather than exploit. The ship trembled around them as the Lilay consciousness expanded. Interfacing with the Asteria systems at a fundamental level, displays flickered to life, showing the vessel breaking orbit, moving under its own power for the first time in 30 years. We're leaving, Mira explained, her hand entwined with Terran's. The Lilay have shown me uninhabited worlds where we can establish a new kind of colony, one based on true symbiosis. Terran looked down at their joined hands. Violet energy flowing between them like a current. The coordinates Jace sent me, he realized. They weren't just to find the ship, they were to complete a cycle. Mira nodded. In the timeline the Lilay showed me, Jace knew he could never return himself. The temporal distortion was already affecting him. But he found a way to ensure someone would. Someone who could protect me when I eventually awoke. Me, Terran whispered. He chose me. And now I choose you. Mira replied, her eyes reflecting stars not yet born. The Lyle woman approached Director Kairos, who cowered against the wall. "Fear or understanding," she said simply. "Choose." Hours later, as the transformed Asteria accelerated toward the edge of known space, Terran and Mira stood in the observation deck. Behind them, Rector Kairos and her team had reluctantly accepted integration with the Lyle consciousness, not the forced subjugation Helios had planned, but a balanced partnership that preserved their humanity while expanding their perception. "Will Earth ever be ready for what we've discovered?" Terran asked, watching distant stars shift as the ship prepared for its jump to the coordinates embedded in their shared consciousness. Mira leaned against him, her body warm against his. "Someday, the Lyle exist across time. They've seen possible futures where humanity either destroys itself or transcends its limitations." She turned to face him, tracing the subtle patterns now visible beneath his skin. "We'll be waiting when they're ready." As their lips met, violet energy shimmered around them, bridging past and future in a moment of perfect connection. The stars outside the viewport blurred as the Asterian, as much a living entity as a vessel, carried them beyond the edge of charted space, toward worlds where new definitions of humanity awaited. In the ship's heart, the Lyle garden continued to grow, its patterns echoing the promise Jace Lauren had kept across 30 years and countless light years, that love, like the most resilient forms of life, finds ways to transcend even time itself.